So I think that, I think that what we need to do is the entire world needs to have a whole nother understanding, a whole different way. We need to revamp our conditioned programming to thinking that drugs are bad, and we need to do that in a bad way. So, what I'm saying is that everything that, like that question that you asked me, there are so many implications to that question that are societal, impositions upon humanity as a whole.
Well, I mean, were you offended I asked you that?
No. I actually like you, George, so I don't, I don't get offended from that, no. I think that it's a fair question, but I'm just saying that I can't answer it, you know what I mean?
All right. Let's talk about one thing that I find extremely fascinating, and that is this relation with the alien abduction phenomenon. That leads me into this, that somehow there's some kind of tie-in here, or something that may or may not be happening, and I want to get your thoughts on it.
Well, it is happening, and this is part of what I was saying, is that the phenomenon is not something that's only outside of us. It's something that's happening within us also. It's something that's happening because of our brains are tuned to the frequencies to where we can see them. This is why they move in and out of our dimension. It's not that they're moving in and out of a dimension that we can see. It's that's what I mean. It's they're moving in and out of a dimension that either we can see or we can't see, depending on what chemicals are in our brains.
What is causing this phenomenon? If someone, for example, is not taking a consciousness-altering mushroom, for example, if they're merely in bed and they wake up and they think they're being abducted, is this an overproduction in their brain, or what's happening to this person?
Well, it could be called an overproduction just because we're not used to the brain producing these substances in those type of quantities. And this is part of the dumbed down thing, is that the brain doesn't produce these things, and so we're kind of shut out from all of that. We're unfamiliar with it completely. And so what happens is when it does happen, we're not prepared. So when it happens and the doorways of perception fling wide and you see something there, then all of a sudden you don't know what it is. Well, if we're just popping in and out of that once in a while, then, of course, we're not very familiar with it. But once you start to walk the paths, once you start to take the doorways, once you start to take a ride, then you start to realize that those things are there, that we can access them and we can become used to them. And they're the same chemicals that are produced naturally. So usually when people have an abduction experience, usually it's after some type of a trauma, like illness or jet lag or long periods of no sleep or long periods of exhaustion or toxic, overkill where your body is, really trying to compensate for it. But usually there's something like that that's going on, because normally the way our bodies are, the way our diet is, we're not set up to be producing that amount of those substances that are required for the brain to have that type of multidimensional shift.
In their minds, James, they travel onto some kind of craft, and they feel as if they're being physically experimented on. Have they indeed done that?
Yes.
They have done that.
Sure, it's real. I mean, even in the sense if you just want to look at it in a philosophical way, just think about have you had a dream where you go out and you get in your car and you drive to work and you come back and you sit at your house, and then all of a sudden you wake up and you realize that you had this dream. But then you say, okay, well, I got to go to work. So you get up and you go get in your car and you jump in your car and you drive to work and you come back and you sit down. Now you've sat down there and you've just been to work twice. Which one of those is more real? And does it make any difference to your consciousness?
It doesn't make a difference to your consciousness.
Right. Does it or doesn't it? No, it doesn't. So here we have one of the interesting paradigms of philosophical thought. What exactly is normal consciousness, and what is it that we're supposed to be trying to do with our consciousness? Well, we know our brain we're operating at like 1/10. Well, the pineal gland sits at the very middle of it. Now, an interesting thing about the pineal gland is if you have the normal American's diet, the pineal gland will eventually start to shrivel up, and it'll calcify, and it'll shut down to where it very rarely produces very much DMT at all. I mean, there's certain precursor substances that you have to have. There's a certain diet that you have to the tryptophan in it to metabolize on down the chain, and eventually it gets to melatonin and, 5-MeO-DMT and then dimethyltryptamine. So there's substances that have to be there in the first place for you to metabolize them. And also, one of the things that's really bad for your pineal gland and your dimethyltryptamine production is fluoride. Fluoride is like a magnet to the pineal gland, and it does all kinds of weird stuff like shutting it down and turning it into calcium and making it non-productive.
So that's great, and it's in our water all the time, everything we drink.
Right, so why? Why is it there? It's just another poison. It's a rat poison. Why do we have fluoride in our water? Well, it's very interesting that it happens to have this relationship with the pineal gland. It's very strange. So you start to wonder, is this state of mind that we're in, is this 1/10 of potential brain functioning, is this something that's hardwired, that is permanent, and there's nothing we can do about it? Or is there something that we can do about it? And what it centers around is these substances, opening up these glands.
These religions, James, that are existing today, are there any of them that you know of that are actively using mind-altering plants?
Yes, there is. There's the Santo Daimes that are using DMT, ayahuasca brew. One of the ones that's out there right now is one that are using ayahuasca brew. Now, ayahuasca is a term from Central America, and it's Central and South Americans. The Amazonian shaman use it, and lots of other people use DMT-containing plants that they pick, and a MAOI plant that they pick, and the two together produce a psychedelic brew called ayahuasca that people are using it in the sacraments. Now, keep in mind that the DMT and the MAOI, the pinealine, which is produced by your pineal gland, is a natural MAOI, and the DMT is produced also by your pineal gland. So what they're doing in mixing these two plants together, where one is an MAOI and one has DMT, is they're reproducing the natural ayahuasca brew that's produced by your pineal gland. So this is a direct, exact same chemical reproduction, and they use it in their sacraments. There's lots of churches around using it.
Did they make it via trial and error? How did they know the right proportions to use?
Well, that's one of the very interesting things, is the shamans will tell you the plants told them which plants to use and exactly what combination to use them in. And the knowledge, the botanical knowledge of the shaman is far superior to any poison knowledge of a pharmacist. I'll tell you that right now. And they have things down in the different areas of the world that for cures that, if we were tapping into that source, if we weren't ignoring and, completely obliterating all the knowledge of these indigenous peoples, we could find cures for anything that we wanted. We don't have to produce poisonous synthetic substances to cure disease. We can cure disease with natural plants. The shamans already know the plants. They can tell us about what they are. If we were a aware society that was functioning in our proper order, we would not be bowing down to what we call the pharmacratic inquisition, which is the fact that these people, these authorities, have taken the knowledge of the plants for themselves and claimed authority over them. They own them. They own all the plants. Man does not own the plants anymore. That's why they're illegal. So they take ownership of the plants and create their own secret society, because you get a doctorate, you get a degree. Now remember, we're talking about degrees in Freemasonry, like up to the 32nd degree, you're frozen. Can't do anything. 33rd degree, now you're not frozen anymore, just like the temperatures of water. Well, if you have 1 degree, you're really not very high up the totem pole of degrees, are you?
No, you're not.